policy also supports substantial change at this location and the creation of a new urban character with a significant increase in the scale and intensity of the activity centre. Clearly, there is strong strategic support at both local and state level for the development as proposed on the site. As noted in the officer's report, a balanced assessment of the proposal leads to recommendation of support. It is worthy to note that there has been only limited objection to this application, or to objections, and it was good to have the objector here from Cozen Street for me to hear tonight his objections. We had an opportunity to write to that objector, but haven't had a response back from him, and we understand his concerns. The council needs to understand that site is within an industrial zone, and we are within the commercial zone and within the major activity centre, and the boundary runs along that zone. We acknowledge the proposal will cast shadows in the morning, but as the sun goes around, I'm not sure if the shadow is up, the site will still get access to sun from the north and from the west. But we do acknowledge there are 8 windows on the laneway, but the building does step back as the building goes up. So that building will continue to maintain access to daylight, albeit that shadowing will occur during the morning period. We note that condition 1A of the recommendation is to delete level 7, which is somewhat of a surprise to us and hasn't been mooted until we received notice of tonight's meeting. We believe that the removal of 6 dwellings by this change, which seeks to reduce the height by 3 metres, is warranted. The 8-storey height plus the communal roof deck is within the 4 to 10-storey height range, which is envisaged in the DDO, noting that there are no low-rise residential interfaces to the site, which would otherwise suggest a lower form be adopted. The upper levels are highly recessive to Sydney Road with a setback of some 10 metres to frontage. I'm not sure if we can get figure 3 back up. Might help rather than me just reading this up. And you'll note that the 7 there with the circle is that's the only element of the built form which breaches the DDO. So our suggestion would be, rather than delete the whole floor, would be to further set back level 7 by about 4.5 metres. So when you're standing on the other side of the street, that element which is visible would actually disappear.
So Peter, I need to just get you to wrap it up. I know everyone in the room has
to adopt the recommendation, albeit that 1A should be retained, and the built form could be set back to meet the DDO 18 instead of reduction of height by 3 metres. I've also noted 1C, I think that's got a typo. Well, it says 1.5 metres, but it should be square metres.
Thank you.
Sorry for taking too much time.
That's okay, it's what happened all night. It's me on the clock. Are there any questions from councillors? Councillor Riley and then Councillor Bolton.
I don't want to see the northern elevation at all. Is that possible? Just to clarify with the objector tonight, just if it's possible to have a look at that, because there is a right of way next to it, and it's still a very tall building to have next to you, but I'm just interested in that.
Do we have a copy of the northern elevation that we can see?
Apologies, I don't think there is a copy accessible on this screen.
Councillor Bolton?
I was just wanting to ask the officer, is it possible to condition this proposal to deal with the issue of light for the objector tonight, or is that really not even possible to deal with? Because I actually think that is what the objectors raised as a serious concern. But I don't know if it's possible to actually condition that, and whether I should be rejecting as opposed to looking providing for that condition.
So I guess there aren't any specific standards in the planning scheme that protect access to daylight from a non-residential use in an industrial zone. And I guess in addition, council's strategic policy does specifically anticipate substantial building heights on this site. Further setbacks to the building could be possible, but they would result in a loss of yield, and that is likely something that the applicant wouldn't be prepared to accept. And if it were to be challenged at VCAT, at an officer level, we don't believe that there would be the grounds to uphold that recommendation.
Any other, Councillor Tavares?
I have a question in regards to heritage. Now, I understand there's another heritage overlay on this site, but certainly my opinion would be that the site has heritage. And specifically, is there a heritage analysis in this area of Sydney Road as a precinct heritage? Has there been any consideration in regards to the setbacks going further into to acknowledge the heritage value that exists in and around the other side?
So the subject site isn't contained within a heritage overlay. The Sydney Road precinct-based heritage overlay doesn't extend as far north as this site. The design and development overlay was developed with, I guess, the majority of Sydney Road in mind, and that's partly why there are mandatory street wall heights and specific upper level setbacks to buildings in Sydney. Sort of two-storey character, I guess, of Sydney Road, but unfortunately the demolition of the building does not require a planning permit. There's no heritage overlay that protects the existing building on the site.
Councillor Devlin?
You mentioned in your, and also indirectly about the building height, that we didn't really accept for the encroachment, there was no concern with the building height. It was on page 249 of tonight's agenda, it says, this is before taking of the story in the one level in the recommendation. It says the total variation in DDO 18 thought is therefore 9.7 metres. In other words, on your plans, it's saying that you're encroaching by 9.7 metres above the third height. Are you disagreeing with that?
No, I'm sorry, Councillor. It's not a mandatory height, it's a preferred height. So the DDO itself talks about a range between 4 to 10. So I think that doesn't mislead the committee at all.
You just decide to take the lowest range or not?
So the 8 stories is within the 10-storey range, but it's obviously above the preferred height in terms of metres.
Any other questions from councillors?
The applicant wants more in regards to heritage. Did the applicant give any consideration to maintaining the heritage facades on Sydney Road in any shape, way or form to preserve the heritage of the local area?
As far as I know, given that the site is not affected by a heritage overlay, part of the original due diligence was to determine if there was a heritage overlay, and given that there was no heritage overlay, the preference was, or the decision was, by the permit applicant, was to not retain the building. But obviously, if there was a heritage overlay, consideration would have been given, obviously, to keeping the fabric of the building and then building a tower above it. But because it wasn't in a heritage overlay, I don't think that's been part of their consideration to retain it.
Any other questions from councillors? Can I have a motion, please?
Okay, can I have a motion, please? Councillor Riley?
Yes, I'll move the motion as put by the officers.
And a seconder, please?
Can I just have a point of clarification? I think when on the night we put a motion that had the reduction of a storey. Is that what you're moving
Yes.
tonight? Yes, yeah.
And Councillor Martin seconding. Councillor Riley, would you like to speak to it? You're not obliged to. This is what I'm required to ask you.
No, I think I'll move
Thank you, sir. Councillor Martin?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Any councillors like to speak to the item? Councillor Bolton?
I'd like to speak against. and I'd like to foreshadow an alternative resolution if this one gets voted down. So the alternative resolution is for a refusal, and mainly on the grounds of height, that this is over the preferred height limit. My understanding is that exceeding the preferred height limit ought to be based on some sort of exceptional design standards of this building, which I don't really see this building as being of exceptional design standards. I'm also concerned about the fact that the neighbour is going to lose some access to so much light. Given it's such a heavily utilised building, it's a building that involves a lot of photography, people hiring it out to take photographs, professional photographs or artistic photographs where they need good lighting, and to actually have all of that access to light just stripped away, and the developer not to even consider any kind of amendments to the design to accommodate those concerns. And then I also am concerned about the fact that the developer hasn't even given any consideration to retention of any of the heritage features of the building, even though there's no heritage overlay on this particular building. It, you know, certainly visually for me, I feel that it does have a lot of heritage characteristics. So I think that is another disappointing element with this development. So I'd argue that councillors should refuse this application.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Councillor Tapanos.
I probably don't need to speak now because I think Councillor Bolton put it perfectly. You know, we, but just to reaffirm some of those points, we've done significant work over many years in regards to preferred heights, and when we constantly don't adhere to those and allow developers to have one more or two more or three more, we start to lose control of the planning process, and I think that is wrong. So I think that we should send a very strong message that no, just one more is not enough. You need to do a good quality development within the height limits that it sets. And B, yes, I know under planning laws there's no heritage overlay in this area, but I think most people in Brunswick in particular will be horrified to learn that we will allow historical facades on Sydney Road to be demolished to build a brand new apartment block. So we need to get onto this and make sure that we do have the appropriate heritage controls into the future. But in the meantime, I think that it is incumbent on the applicant and anyone who wants to develop into the city to acknowledge that historical fabric that is there, even if legally they don't need to do so. So if they had done that, if they had been more sympathetic to the heritage of the area by retaining something, if they had provided a better quality design, more ESD, I could have a look at having a greater height, but I don't think that there is anything special about this application and it should be rejected, and the applicant should be told to come back to us with something better within the height controls.
Thank you, Councillor Tapanos. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak?
Oh yeah, I'll just speak quickly.
Councillor Dorney.
So I'm also in support of this application tonight, not because I particularly like the application, but because it, given the additional information that I've since found out from the objector and following that through and understanding what's within the realm of the planning scheme, I think that this building with the conditions, particularly the deletion of level 7, provides an acceptable outcome within the planning scheme. I would like to see another floor off, but just with the precedent in the area, what's actually this acceptable outcome, I just don't think there's any grounds for that being upheld at VCAT. So again, with the heritage, as much as I would have liked to see the facade being no overlay, there's just no grounds. It costs a lot of money for us to go to VCAT, and when we've got a precedent of 7-storey buildings in the area immediately adjacent, and we also have arts for mandatory height limits, but the Victorian government hasn't granted them, that we, we've kind of done what we can. I think the officers have done great work in conditioning with a range of conditions. I'm not sure how many, but there's quite a few pages of, at least 2 pages of conditions, which goes some way to really enhance this application. And I thank officers for their work and negotiation on that and what's within the realm and sphere of influence for council. So, yeah, I'll just end it there.
Thank you, Councillor Dorney. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Councillor Riley?
Just to wrap up here, thank you, Councillor Dorney.
Oh, is this the right of reply? Let me just say something before you do. I'd just like to reiterate what Councillors Tapanos and Bolton have just outlined in terms of the importance of heritage and height in the city, and express my frustration, which I'm sure the whole city feels, at the fact that we don't have, the heritage controls that we'd love to see and the mandatory height controls that we'd love to see. But at the same time, I do take on board the advice that the officers have given us about the chances of it being upheld at VCAT, and so I'll be supporting it and not abstaining on the vote this evening, because I think that it probably wouldn't have, it would just be a waste of officers' time if it did get sent to VCAT, even though that's quite frustrating. Councillor Riley.
Oh, yeah, thank you. You've almost stole my thunder, but I'm happy to echo those sentiments around the height laws and what we've tried to do in the city to try and get some certainty. And Councillor Dorney's also spoken to this in trying to reduce it by any further to the preferred height limits. It's unlikely to succeed at VCAT on the advice we've had, and we've just had another case come back to us which tested that and found very clearly that VCAT did not support council's position on that. So I don't really particularly want to waste our money and time. It's not the best application that we've seen come across here tonight. It's got some reasonable environmental sustainable design aspects. I would like to have seen some improvements, but I concur with Councillor Dorney. There's been a lot of conditions, and I've also learnt that there is a laneway between our building and the adjacent building, arts and dance performance space. But I've also learnt that those rooms that are closest to the western wall of this proposal, or the eastern wall of the existing dance studio, are actually kitchens, toilets and things. There's one utility room. So I don't think the lighting issues in the morning they will have impact, but I don't think they'll be hugely impactful on the dance and performance spaces, which is, a small comfort. So based on those kind of assessments, I'm willing to accept this as an acceptable proposal. It's not excellent by any means, but it is acceptable to me. And I do share the concerns around the heritage issues. But again, we don't have any tools in which to exercise those this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. As Councillor Riley's had the right of reply, thus signalling no further debate, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Tapanos, are you voting?
Sorry, I'm against, sorry, yes.
That's okay, just checking. I just might do that again. In favour? Against? Thank you. I declare that carried. And I now ask the officers to outline the next step. Sir.
Thank you. So the council has just decided to issue a notice of decision to grant a planning permit, subject to the conditions contained in the officer recommendation. Following the issue of the decision, the applicant and objectors will receive a copy, and the objectors will have 28 days to appeal council's decision to the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal. If no appeal is lodged, a permit will issue, and the applicant then has a further 60 days to appeal any conditions on the permit. Thank you.
That concludes the business that we have this evening. So councillors, members of the gallery, and to our viewers live streaming at home, I declare the special council meeting for planning and related matters closed at exactly 7 o'clock, and we'll be back shortly for the ordinary council meeting. Thank you.